Is Mac Grant with Evolution Podcast, and I'm just going to talk about what is fair. Okay, and this particularly has to do with kids. I've heard this from a number of dads actually, and I think it plays into everybody. I think moms do it as well. But there's this topic of what's fair, or it has to be fair between the kids, or this what's fair type conversation that I just want to blow holes in because it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. And what happens is it's kind of like, well, if I let this kid do it, then I have to let the other one do it. Or if I don't let this one do it, then I have to not let the other one do it, or whatever this is. But that's like thinking that every child is the same, or even that we're the same. And that you have to ask this question of, where did this fair conversation even come from? Typically, it comes from schools, it comes from parents before, or some measure of rationing type of thing. And the reality is, it's like, okay, well, let's back up. Let's go back to the beginning of time, or God, or whatever, and say, wait, if everything's fair, why aren't living the same life? Why isn't everybody living the same life? I don't. Somebody tell me this. Somebody can answer this question. No, you can't, because that's ridiculous. It's like saying every tree is the same. Every tree, we know as a fact that every tree is slightly different in some way, shape, or form. Not one, two things are the same. So why would we set up the rules to be the same for two completely different kids? Let me give you an example of just my kids in general. Jada, superstar, sports, competitive cheer, played on or competed on some of the highest level teams in the nation, like ridiculous workouts, straight A's, one of the kindest, nicest people you'll ever meet, just completely self-sufficient, just dominates, right? But just cool, like amazing kid. Then you've got Caden. Caden is completely opposite. He kind of like did a little this, he did karate, had some messed up stuff happen with his karate teacher, because this is one of those fair things that or I don't know, this stupid. The teacher was like, oh, you could have done better, so he didn't give him his black belt, but he did everything required based on the list. And it was like, who do you think you are? This is a little before I came into his life, but it was absolutely ridiculous. So when school comes around and there's no straight A's, it's more like a waste of time. He's smart enough that he could probably just blow through the whole thing in no time if he wanted to, because it's really a joke for him. He's really intelligent, extremely competent. And as the teachers are trying to hold him in line, I'm like, you can go tell them to go fuck themselves. This is stupid. Why are they trying to compete with you? Like, you should be allowed to run, be allowed to go faster, be allowed to do his own thing. He's capable. Since he was 13, he would jump on his bike, take off with his friends, go do whatever he wanted. By the age of 12, 13, I was pretty much like, this kid could survive by himself. So why would I place restrictions on him? Now, at the same time, Jada, confident in everything else, she wants to take off on her bike at 13. And I'm like, no, you're not. Well, Caden does. Tough. You're a girl. Just is what it is. So because I let him, should I let her? No, it's totally different. Now, if she's with two or three friends, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe we can do something then, but completely different. She got a little bit of her curfew. I need to know where my daughter is at. There's too much crazy stuff in the world for me. It's just where I'm at and what we're going to do. She understands. I explained it to her how it works. Caden never had a curfew in his life. Never really got in trouble. Didn't really do anything too crazy. A little bit of crazy. I expected that. He's a boy. Okay. So these rules that get placed on kids, or these things of like, what's fair? If I do it for this one, then I have to do it for this one. Throw that out the window. Do everyone a favor and start looking individually at what is what, because then it gives you permission as well to say, yeah, that doesn't fit me. I don't agree. I don't agree with that. Why should I confide to something that doesn't fit who I am? Lucky for me and my kids, I got defiant very young based on these principles of what was, well, everybody else has to do it this way, so therefore you do. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, you might be telling me this, but I completely disagree with you. So I began at a very young age discrediting everybody around me, because I was like, this is stupid. You say this, but you do this. This is dumb. And younger, in a repressed area, I had to keep my mouth shut. Just is what it is. But it didn't stop my mind. It didn't stop me from expanding my mind and realizing that there's a lot of dumb things. So when time came and I realized what was going on with Caden, I told him, you need to test out of school. And I'm his stepdad, but there's this idea that I took and said, listen, like, this is what I did. Like he's got a very similar personality to me. Go figure. I mean, he's around me quite a bit. You know, his dad's cool too. Like we're all good. But you know, we all have this similar, you know, entrepreneurial type attitude. And it's like, you know, if we leave him here and try to make him do these things, one, he's going to procrastinate because it's too easy. And two, he's just going to be really defiant and reject everything. Or we can say test out, and he tests out, gives him the power to, because most kids can't, they're not capable of being even confident enough to do this, and go to work and start his own business. Anything he needs to educate himself on, he can do. He can look it up, Google it, YouTube it, do whatever, or attend a college course if he needed to. Or you know what? Just make money and hire people to do it for you. What do you know? You know, so it's like we're empowering him to make these decisions and move forward. Whereas Jada, on the other hand, still in school, state champion cheer, you know, go straight A's, like very high level academically, doesn't care to go into college or anything else, but she's still crushing it, right? So there's, it's completely two different worlds. And had we restrained them to the same rules, where do you think they would be? They would not be as competent. It would have caused hell for us trying to hold them in a lane, right? Like the schools do. Why do you think schools have struggles with these types of kids? Because they don't confine to the lane. And that school system kind of barely even holds 60-70% of the kids in the lane. It didn't hold me, wasn't going to hold my kids. And so we walk in and say, these are the rules that we go by. I don't care what you say. Like, forget it. The government's trying to force it otherwise, but keep in mind, you still have a voice and make that voice heard. But think like, okay, wait a minute. This doesn't fit my kid. This doesn't fit me. Or, you know, where are you playing in your life that you need to look at a little differently and be like, this set of rules should not be my set of rules. I've just had this set of rules because that's how everybody else did it. You know, it would be, you know, a lot of times what we eat is what our parents ate. And there's this story about somebody asking the question at Christmas dinner when they'd have a ham, and they'd be like, how come you cut the ham square? Because they would like chop off the ends of the ham, and that was just what they did. And they're like, why do you do that? Like an outsider came in and said, why do you do that? And they're like, I don't know, it's just what we've done. It's just tradition. They're like, oh, it's tradition. They're like, well, why would it be like why would you do that? There's good meat that you're cutting off. Like, what are you doing with it? Oh, well, you know, well, and finally somebody tracked it back to figuring out that great grandma had a small oven. So she cut it square to be able to cook the ham for Christmas dinner. But nobody challenged it. Nobody thought for 2 seconds, like, oh, I'm going to do it different. And sometimes we have to stop and we have to think, wait, let's do it different. Let's do something different. And you keep in mind that every move you make with your kids is subconsciously programming them to the success they're going to have. So in life, when they begin doing something that you don't necessarily agree with, how did you create it? Like if you're not willing to be a responsible parent to say like, yeah, I did this, or I can change this, or I can educate this, you know what? That's on you. There ain't nobody going to save you from that. You want to be a bitch and be a victim around it? Fine, go tell your story, but not around me. Forget it. Because there's things I watched my kids do. There's things I knew they were going to do, and I let them do and let them fail. And I'm like, oh, I know what it is. And there's things that they've done where I didn't approve of it. You know, occasionally there wasn't not much. I mean, I got the most amazing kids. It's just amazing. You know, good help from their dad, their mom, and just all of us together working together to make sure they had what they needed and didn't get told what they didn't need, you know, and so they're free to explore and do great things. But you know, if somebody begins telling me, oh, you don't understand or this, that, no, I don't care. Like my kids have done a few things that I don't necessarily agree with, but guess what? How I looked at it, I had an opportunity to educate them differently. And I still have an opportunity to educate them or have a discussion. And if they do something that I don't agree with, where maybe there's a little bit of innocence or maybe not, all I need to do is sit down and have a discussion and see what can be done about it. But the fact is, they did it because of me, not because of anybody else. And I'll take full responsibility, regardless of the other parents involved here, and just say, no, like I can influence them to do different things or help them or whatever. So if something is happening here, it's not on them, it's on me. However, if I have educated them and they choose to do something different, then it's on them, as long as I've properly done my job. And by having that format, they know when I say something, it's legit. because I've never restricted, repressed without educate. So there's an education that happens in this piece where but you have to be aware that every move you're making, if you look at a daughter and say, what are you wearing, and tell her something about what she's wearing, what actually went in her mind, because it's not that she needs to wear something different, it's that you don't see her, like you are degrading her or something. Or if she is defiant to the point of like she's out dressing like a slut, now you have a problem. What did you not do to give her the confidence to dress for fun? Because my daughter's in cheer, she's a performer, she dresses however she wants. Less clothes is quite often, like, it's very slim clothing, but look how she performs on stage. Do you think I'm ever going to say anything against what she wears? No, because that would affect her performance. And she's not that type of person. She's very confident, very wholesome, God loving woman. And so you have to consider, like, had I put any of these thoughts of like, oh, you can't wear this, or that's inappropriate, or anything like that, it's like, says who? Honestly, says who? Now, if she was seeking attention in a negative way, then it would be inappropriate. But she doesn't. She dresses for fun. She loves it. She enjoys it. So therefore, that's what it is. And you just got to keep in mind that every child is independent. And if you're really looking out for the best thing for them, shut your mouth, shut everybody else's mouth that has an opinion about it, and you do what's best for them. You program them for success. You program them to be able to make decisions. You push them into environments. And if you're a mom in this subject, typically moms caretake and they let things go, or they try and baby kids and whatever. It's like, if you have a boy that's 12 years old and doesn't know kind of how to run his own life in some way, shape, or form, you have a problem. You're going to have a boy when he's 18 instead of a man. By the time I was 12 years old, you could have left me, and I would have started running a business or doing whatever. I was doing professional work at 12 years old, bringing in money. Why? Because I begged for it, for one, but I know the capability of a young boy, what he could do if he's just allowed to do it, not forced, allowed. So if you might think that they're not capable, trust that all kids are capable, and trust that most of the information that you can get actually comes from kids without restriction. Adults are more restricted than children ever will be, and children will often give you more clarity. If you want the answers to your problems, ask a child. They'll probably pull something from God that you can't even tap into, because they're less clouded from the world. And as adults, we typically think, oh, we're the authority, so we need to hold it together. And we forget that, and you don't have to believe in Jesus or whatever, but, there is a scripture that says, Jesus basically says, be like a child and you'll be closer to God. And you have to be humble enough to go, what do they have to offer? As much as I have to offer them, what do they have to offer as well? Because there's a lot there. There's a lot they can teach you, and a lot you can just let them do and watch and observe and watch them be successful. So keep these things in mind as you're coming up with rules or restrictions that don't actually need to be there. Like I said, Caden never had a curfew. Never. Like, not that I can remember in the last 9 years that I've been around him that he's actually had a curfew. And right now, he works with his dad on commission, lives with his girlfriend, successful, pays rent, pays his stuff, does his thing. He's like crushing it. How many other kids are doing that right now? And yet I never had the thought I need to restrict this kid on a curfew. No, I told him the rules. The rule was, don't bring stupid shit back to my house. The rule was, be smart. The rule is, if you do something that I know you knew better, you will have a problem. I don't know what that is. So just think before you act. But I will give you grace, because I know you're a boy and I know I did a lot of stupid stuff, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite. So if you do some stupid stuff like I did, we'll just have a discussion. We'll figure it out. But that there is a line there, and you know where the line is, that you still got to uphold that. Like, represent the man that I've taught you to be. And then he goes out and does it. And yeah, there's a little stuff here and there, but man, I couldn't be more proud, because I didn't restrict. I educated and pushed him. I pushed him into life to do more, be more. Same with Jada. I challenged her at 10 years old to take the lead on her cheer team. I couldn't do that. No, well, that's not my place. Yeah, Jada, yeah, you could. Well, I could. Well, just by me having that conversation with her, put it in her mind, maybe I could. And then by the time she was 12, she was beginning to influence other girls in a positive way. So you have to kind of have a little vision and foresight here. But if you're too caught up in the restrictive behavior, like my parents were, that's just where they were. It was all restriction. Granted, I was a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna deny that. I pushed, but one of the reasons I pushed was because I was so restricted. I was confined, and I couldn't, like, it was gonna crush me. So I was either going to be defiant or be crushed. I chose defiance. And it's educated me a lot, and it's helped me raise kids and not do the same to them. So keep it in mind. Look at the rules, break the rules. Nothing is the same. Don't hold one standard for the other. Think it through before you do things, and be willing to be dumb enough to say, yeah, this, like, I don't know here. Or if you do something stupid, own it. Tell your kids, yep, this didn't work out right. But if you're so messed up that you're doing wrong stuff but not admitting it to your kids, then you need to get with somebody like me and Jen, where we can, influence you to start correcting this stuff. Because there's there's a lot of stuff happening in the world today where the kids are getting screwed up bad, and we're going to be fixing a lot of older people in generations to come. But if we can just start fixing the children now, and getting the parents to be humble and expose the lies and expose everything to the kids actually won't hold this against you. Like, I told my kids my failures very young. Like, hey, you know what? I suggest you don't do this because this is what I did and this is how it happened. Guess what? They never used that against me. Not once. They never said, yeah, but you don't know what you're doing about it because you did this. But yeah, parents think that this is what's going to happen. They just went, okay, they thought it through, and they thought through my experience, and then they lived different to where they didn't recreate that, because I was willing to be honest enough to say, this is how bad I've jacked stuff up. This is what I've done. It doesn't give you permission, right? If you make a mistake, I'll be understanding. But you need to understand that this is what happens if you make these types of choices. So this is why I do this, and this, and this is why I hold you to this, and this. And they're like, they think it through. That makes sense. And I look for those cognitions. I look for them to be like, that makes sense. But had I ever said, well, this has to be equal, well, because she did this, he does this, or anything else, it would have completely destroyed them. So do not play the game of because so-and-so said, or because of this, or because equality, or whatever who knows. Don't play the world's game. Don't be that parent. Start being individualized and start doing the things and understanding you're probably going to screw them up too. I still do. I'm not perfect, but I own it. And when you own it, guess what? There's respect, no matter who you are, where you are, your kids, whatever. But if you restrict and then you make a mistake, they'll use it to destroy you, because you're destroying yourself, not them. You have to be able to expose your lies. And there's this thing that I say, a leader that is not willing to expose their lies will become basically a terrorist. What was I said, like, it's tyranny, basically a tyrant. That's what it was. I can't even remember my own quote. A leader not willing to expose their own lies will become a tyrant. But a leader that is willing to expose their lies or their problems or their mistakes and just like immediately expose it, deal with it, fix it, that's a leader. Because everybody's going to fail through life. Everybody's going to make a mistake. We're not Jesus, and the design is not for us to be perfect. It is for us to learn, to educate, to practice, to do things different, to overcome the failures. And part of overcoming the failures is admitting that we're not perfect and having humility. And by having humility, it gives the kids a chance to understand inside of this confusing in their mind, because they feel things. They kind of have an internal sense of right and wrong. And when they're being told something, but it doesn't feel right, even though it might sound right, it's confusing. And then they wind up becoming confused adults, and then they repeat the process. Versus when you give a child the truth, they're like, oh, okay, I see this, and then they solve the problem. Because they've got their education and they've got your education. More works to the advantage. But you have to be willing to be humble. So be humble. And if you find yourself in a place where you don't know how this works, you're like, I try to do this, or my kids are doing this, or you kind of sound like a victim a little bit. This is crazy. Trust me, I get it. Like I didn't learn this stuff because one day I woke up and I was good at it. I went through hell. I experienced this. I luckily God worked it out to where I came into my kids' lives after many experiences, many challenges, different things. So I came in with a whole different set of skills and anything. If I had kids when I was 20, I probably would have wrecked them too. So this isn't me trying to be um against anyone or make you feel bad or anything else. I'm more like, hey, get in here, let us help, let me help so that we can help your kids. Because kids are like one of my priorities of who I stand up for, who I want to help the most. And I don't care how bad you've messed something up. The willingness to make it better is what I care about. Like I'll give you a high five for the person that says, yeah, man, I'm screwing some stuff up. Can you help? Hell yeah, man. Absolutely. Let's do this. So, if you find yourself in that conversation of maybe trying to break down some of your own programming and barriers that you've been dealing with your whole life so that you can get free of the pressures that shouldn't have been put on you, get into the membership. If you have kids and you're trying to do it right, or maybe you've got older kids, you just need to let go of some stuff, and like, yeah, I've done it wrong. What do I do? Hey, there's always a way. Just get in, get connected, start working with us and figuring it out. But you start with our membership, and you find the link to that, or you can even work with us one-on-one if you have some kind of more challenging problems. I've done a lot of one-on-one work with individuals, single parents, stuff like that, of trying to help them move through this, navigate it, trying to break free of some of the programming that they got as they were raised and not really kind of seeing both sides of it. So there's a lot to offer there, but like, we want to ultimately have these kids raised up to where these kids can start raising younger kids and being a more supportive, successful environment for everyone. And I think everybody deep down wants that for their kids, no matter what. Like I truly think the human nature is that we want our kids to surpass us and do amazing, great things. And so if you find yourself in wanting or desire to level up on that, then come find us. All right. So have a wonderful day, and we will see you on the next podcast. So looking forward to it.